Hello and welcome to the PC Security channel. The product I'll be testing today is SecureAPlus, a very new product that has been, suggested to me so many times. I've got several requests to test this product both from my viewers and from the developers of the product themselves. So I'm definitely happy that I'm finally getting a chance to take a look at it. I didn't have time for quite a while, so I had to postpone it again and again. And hopefully today I'll finally be able to give my opinion on this new product. So let's open it up and take a look. So SecureAPlus is primarily whitelisting software. It does have some kind of AV backing it up. It's called Universal AV, and it actually uses a ton of different engines. It's entirely cloud-based, but they do have some kind of offline protection if you enable that mode. But as I said, the key part of the software is whitelisting. Now, how do I feel about this approach? Honestly, it's a difficult question for me, because whitelisting means you go by the process guilty until proven innocent. So it means any application developed by anyone, let's say I just write down a code. Now, it's not malware, but I'm not going to be able to run it without trusting it. So once again, it gives the decision to the user whether or not the user wants to trust the file. And that's where we had the problem of AV in the first place, because the user could not make that decision by themselves. But anyway, let's see how they approach this problem and how they try to solve it by providing minimum number of alerts. And so this is not going to be a simple test where I just see whether the malware is blocked or not, because in that case a whitelisting software would just ace the test, but that's not the purpose. There's no point having an AV that blocks every malware, but it also blocks every other legitimate software. And it's not any protection, it's just a blocking mechanism. So we'll see how this software helps us differentiate and protect against a variety of threats. So let's go to their settings. Now, first is a very interesting setting. Since they use Cloud AV, they actually have a setting so that you can, for those with data bandwidth caps, you can select how much data you want the application to upload and to scan in the cloud. Now, these are all the engines that are available: AVG, Avira, Bitdefender, ClamWin, ESET, MCSoft, McAfee, Microsoft Security Essentials, Norton. No, sorry, I made a mistake. That's Norman, not Norton. QuickHeal, Sophos, Total Defense. QuickHeal, really? Total Defense, really? Was it really necessary to include engines that, I don't think have really good detection rates? But anyway, they're including so many engines, so not really a concern. They've got really good engines over here. We've got ESET, MCSoft, Avira, Bitdefender, so some just really good engines there. Now we get to the interesting part, that is application whitelisting. So it basically has several different modes. First of all, you have the default interactive mode, in which you're prompted every time you run a program that's not in their trust list. So you can either trust it or you can block it. Now in lockdown mode, all untrusted programs will be automatically blocked from running on your computer. Now in trust all, it is going to trust all applications. So fairly simple to set up. I guess interactive mode is the mode of maximum functionality. Now in advanced settings, we have application whitelisting based on digital signatures. Now, this is actually a nice feature which might help the application differentiate between malware and a legitimate file. But then again, we know that malware is sometimes able to fake digital signatures, so in those cases this is not going to work. But I'm guessing in most cases this is going to do a good job. Now then we have something called learning mode. In this case, this is another one of those features. So if you're annoyed with the false positives, you can let it learn for a few days and then get back to, set it back to the usual modes, and then it will not alert you for the applications for which it has learned some rules. Now, scan settings, you can enable offline antivirus, their universal AV, real-time scanning. So I'm really interested to see how real-time scanning works with all those engines, how they've managed to implement that. And the rest of it just looks like the usual settings to me. Now it has automatic updates, of course. Now another interesting thing about this product is how they actually license their software. I mean, how you actually purchase the software, because it's not really as simple as other AV programs. Now, in fact, I'm a little bit unsure about this because they have this software is free. I've completely downloaded without any cost, and there's a premium trial. Now, I did receive a couple of licenses from the makers of the software so that I could use the premium trial, but I decided to go ahead with the free version anyway because that's the one most people will be using. So I'm not sure if this is an unlimited free version or whether they're going to introduce some costs after a year or something like that, because they do have something called license extension. So those things are a little bit, shady to me because they still have enter a license code here. So I'm not sure exactly how they're planning to charge you. But that's it. Enough of, just an overview of the software and what I think of it. Now let's get to the actual testing part where most of the things will start coming up. Now, first of all, the resource usage. How heavy is this application? So let me close out their UI. And let's see. So it seems to be running ClamAV as its primary antivirus, offline antivirus defense. And that is taking a ton of RAM, 285.9 megabytes. We'll see if this drops. If not, high RAM usage is definitely one of the things that you need to look out for. Now the rest of it is very light, as you would probably expect. Doesn't do much, completely cloud-based, but the offline AV, it's holding all its signatures in memory, 286 megabytes, that's a ton. But then again, it may not be that heavy unless it's frequently using these. But anyway, let's get testing. So as usual, we'll be doing our link blocking test or our web test or whatever you want to call it. The part where we basically just grab a bunch of links and try them out and see if the AV blocks it. So here we go with the first link. Let's see if their universal AV catches it, and sure it does. So we're just going to quarantine it. Now on the design aesthetics, I do wish their alerts were a little bit better. They're not the prettiest that I've seen, but as long as it works, I have no complaints. So here's a zip file. Let's see if this is blocked. No alerts so far, but when I execute it, it's not signed. Now, since we're in interactive mode, we get to decide whether or not to allow this file. Now, here is a really interesting and amazing feature in my opinion. It gives you the virus total detection of the file that you're executing. Now, this to me is extremely helpful in deciding whether or not this file is to be trusted. So if it keeps providing this information, that is going to be very helpful. So do I want to trust this file? No, of course not. When you see a detection ratio of 30 out of 57 engines and the file is not signed, you do not trust the file. It's a fairly easy choice, I would say, in this case. So it did successfully block the second threat. Although it is user dependent, it makes the decision fairly easy for the user. Now this solves the usual problems of whitelisting, like how do you differentiate between a clean and a malicious file. If it gives you the information like whether or not the file is digitally signed, and it also provides information as to how many engines detect it, then it makes absolute sense for me. Now let's go ahead and see how it deals with this threat. Once again, file is not signed, and it says virus total unknown. Okay, so we can send it to virus total. So now it's going to upload the file, and then it'll let us know what the detections are. So this utility is heavily integrated with VirusTotal, which is, again, a very useful tool. Now, there are two approaches that allow us to get protection like this. Either you do something like they're doing based on signatures, whether a file is signed, whether it's detected by most of the engines in VirusTotal, and there's another approach, you analyze the behavior of the file. Things like Komodo does with, let's say, behavior blockers, intrusion prevention systems. There are two ways to go about absolute zero-day protection. So I don't know. I mean, at the moment, I still prefer having behavior blocker, something that actually analyzes the behavior of the file rather than gives you stats. But then again, if you're having VirusTotal detections, it can be equally effective, because let's say a code I write down, it's not going to be detected by VirusTotal. So you can know that that is a file that can be trusted. Now, one problem I do have is how long is this going to take? I know a user probably has to just deal with a few files, but even then, as you can see, it's still getting scanned. This file is not returning a result that quickly. Now, let's see what happens if we have multiple threads trying to get in at the same time, and what happens to that alert eventually. Because it's still being scanned by VirusTotal. I just realized this link isn't working, so we'll proceed to the next one. SecureAPlus is still scanning the previous file in VirusTotal. Looks like this link is dead too. Okay, so we finally have the VirusTotal detection. Now it says the detection is 4 out of 56. Now, how do you decide now? Is this file to be trusted or not? I guess this is where, some of the user decision comes in, because you basically have to decide based on the source you got this file, and whether or not you trust the publisher of this file, whether it looks legitimate to you or not. Because the file is not signed, but then again, there might be a legitimate file that's not signed. And the VirusTotal detection ratio does not give you any clear indication as to whether or not it's malware. It could easily be a false positive by 4 engines. But anyway, in this case, I'm not going to trust this file, so it'll be blocked. Now let's go ahead and try running the other files. Now this is clear malware, so we're going to block it again. Let's try reloading this page. For some reason it didn't load the last time. Let's see if it loads now. No, it doesn't. So let's continue. This product is really interesting so far. It's nothing like anything I've seen before. So once again, I'll go with the VirusTotal detection. It's definitely a good tool for advanced users, but don't know how effective it will be for an everyday user or someone who has very little experience with computers. How are they going to interpret these VirusTotal detections and whether or not the file is signed? So this one's caught pretty easily. Quarantine. Once again, we'll quarantine. So both of those threats got detected very easily. Once again, even though they're using a ton of engines, I don't think that all of those engines are actually implemented and active all the time, because although we're getting some of these that are being detected, I'm pretty sure if it had actually used all those engines, we wouldn't have had those 2 or 3 files that did make it through. We wouldn't have had any file that made it through probably. Now this is a dead link. Let's try out the last link. Let's try running this. So far so good. We still have a clean sheet. Come on, what are you waiting for? 98%. Be done already. So once again, caught by the signatures. So pretty good job overall, I'd say. So now we're going to grab our pack of malware and see how this product responds to threats that are already on the system, although not active. So I'll see if I can disable their universal AV. I think it should be pretty simple. Scan settings, and I just have to disable real-time scanning. So now we can go and grab our samples. Here we go. We've got 150 items. Now let's see how their universal AV works. So let's see if we have a right-click scan option. We do, so I'm going to do that, and we'll see if it detects everything. So many engines after all, so should do a pretty good job here. In fact, I must also mention that these samples are fairly old. Some of them have got pretty high detections, so as usual, I'd expect a really high detection rate by default. And since it uses all these engines, I'd probably expect it to detect like everything. But let's wait and see how many it actually is able to catch. So as you can see, it has detected plenty of threats, so we're going to select and remove all of these. And that's done. Let's see what's left over. 26 items. That's 82.66. I'd say that's a fairly, decent detection rate. Not really as good as I was expecting. So it's definitely not really using all these engines, because I know that MCSoft gets a detection rate. MCSoft just probably misses like 8 of these files. So if it were actually using the full signatures and completely scanning all of these files with all of those engines, we wouldn't be left with 26 items. It's kind of confusing how exactly these multi-engine products implement their engines, because they never seem to be able to get the actual sum total of their detections. But in any case, it's still a pretty good result. Now let's see how it protects us against some of these files. Let's re-enable the real-time scanning and see if that makes any difference, if it's able to catch more files with its real-time engine. So let's go ahead and execute stuff. So it's going to be blocked, whitelisting. Now this is interesting. It says this file is signed and it is clean. Universal AV status clean. And it's not really giving me a virus toll detection for this. So this is interesting. So I'm definitely going to trust this file and run it. And let's see what it actually does. Maybe a false positive. I don't know, but... Well, from what I can see, that thing just terminated. No, it's still running in memory. Interesting. We'll wait and see if anything else detects it. So far, it looks kind of like legitimate software. It's not behaving like usual malware. But anyway, let's keep going. This file is not signed and it's detected, so we'll stop that from running. Once again, being scanned by virus toll, no. 43 That's not a good idea to run that file. Now here's another one. Now this is signed. May still be some kind of adware. Now that's interesting because this is being scanned by VirusTotal although it's signed. But I don't know why on the other file I didn't get a VirusTotal detection and instead it just said Universal AV says it's clean. Now this is interesting. Now here there's a conflict. It is signed by, so it's giving me a nice green check mark over here, but this thing says it is detected by 13 engines. So what does a user do in this case? Do you trust the digital signature and assume that this file is safe, or do you go with the 13 engines that could possibly be false positives? Now, Secure, SecureAPlus or whatever does not give you an answer here. So now it's actually up to the user. You may trust it, you may not. Now personally, looking at this detection, I'd probably go with no, but what if you thought otherwise? What if this was actually a legitimate file and it just so happens that 13 engines detected, and it could be 13 not so popular engines, and it could just be their heuristics and false positives. So what do you do in that case? That is what makes this a really difficult product to judge. So in this case I'm gonna say no, but let's see if we see more of these alerts very frequently. Once again, signed and detected. So let's, for once, let's just assume, since it's just detected by 11 engines, I think this is a legitimate app. So I guess there's some kind of adware. Now it's going to, download some crap. Maybe, maybe not. Once again, it's signed, but it's detected by 30 engines. What do you do? Do you run it? Do you not? It's starting to become confusing, isn't it? Let's just block this file. This is not signed. Block this. So as I said at the beginning, this is going to be a very difficult product to judge, as it depends heavily on the user's level of awareness and knowledge. I'm sure this is going to be a great tool to play around for advanced users, but how a novice user is going to treat this alert is what bothers me. I'm not sure that they'll get it right every time on their own. And what if you get something like this, unable to verify digital signature? Still being scanned. Anyway, I guess that's all the files that I'll be running, because there's very little point in running too many of these. We know what we're going to get. I'm gonna block that. So now, just for the couple of adware files that ran, I'm going to do a couple of second opinion scans, and then we'll get to the final verdict. Okay, so Hitman Pro says the system is clean, so I'm assuming this is a false positive. I just realized there's very little point in doing multiple scans with different second opinion scanners, because the number of infections just depends on the decisions that I take. But in any way, what do I think of this product? So basically, two things. Is this a product worth checking out? Is it a great new addition? Is it a nice tool for advanced users? Is it interesting? Yes. Now, is it going to revolutionize protection? Will it completely make antivirus programs obsolete? No, that is not the case, at least not right now. So what I think, well, they do say that you can run it alongside an antivirus program, which makes even more sense. So you can actually have a proper real-time protection running and have this for extra protection, which would still probably be overkill and more of a hindrance if you're a novice user. Now, advanced users will probably love this to play around with a lot of stuff. At the moment, it's really hard to give a proper verdict on this. As I said, it is not very easy to judge. But I'll tell you that I would still prefer intrusion prevention and behavior blocking over this technique, because there at least the software does some kind of analysis based on how the application is behaving, which seems much more accurate than just analyzing a file based on signatures. But anyway, it's still a great tool. This is a nice new approach. So if you're interested, definitely check this out. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I will be keeping a close eye on this product. If they come up with any more developments, I'll check them out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this test. See you guys in the next review. Stay informed, stay secure.